Will Kirk Cousins redeem himself? We'll see.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, where you can start the season with a big return. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. So if you don't know me, I am your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, a.k.a. the iron that sharpens the iron, a.k.a. Mr. a.k.a. Been covering the Atlanta Falcons for a very long time, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP, still going strong on this illustrious podcast. Thank each and every one of you that goes strong with me each and every day, that makes this podcast your first listen, and then we call you the everydayers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So today's episode, I am, of course, joined by Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta, as we always do here on this illustrious show, wrapping up the week to give you that final preview of this upcoming Week 14 matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about whether or not this game could make or break the Falcons season, must-win sort of status. Is the season over or not, depending on the results on Sunday? We'll talk about the defense. Jarvis and I can finally talk about the defense in a positive way on this podcast. It's been many weeks, if not months, since we've had those conversations, but we got to start with the topic of the week, which is Kirk Cousins making his triumphant, we'll see, return to Minnesota. Basically, Jarvis, the question is, can Kirk Cousins bounce back? Will he bounce back this week against the Minnesota Vikings after a very underwhelming, just to put it kindly, performance against the LA Chargers, where he threw 4 interceptions? We've had 0 touchdown passes from Kirk in the last 3 games combined. Are we going to get one this weekend? Are we going to get chaotic Kirk turning the ball over, doing too much, all that stuff? What version of Kirk Cousins do you expect we'll see on Sunday?
Can he? Yes, he can bounce back. Will he? I don't know. That's kind of where I am with him, because you just don't know what you're going to get from him. Because like after the first couple games, as far as we saw struggling and everybody wanted to fire Zach Robinson, you start to see them kind of make progress. And we even went through a stint where, man, they were figuring out ways to use Kyle Pitts as well, without him being the focal sole focus on it as far as the offense goes. So I think that for me, man, I'm in a space where Kirk is gonna have to tinkle or get off the pot. This is, just from you can't be like in between like this. It can't be extremes. Like I always talk about how I don't like to live my life operating in extremes, right? Like I kind of try to be the middle ground, like an Eli Manning type almost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not as stoic as Eli Manning, but I try to live my life that way. So I think just from a football aspect, I feel like Kirk needs to kind of adopt that just from an execution standpoint, because when you look at the type of turnovers, like I know quarterbacks going to turn the ball over, but it's the type of turnovers that just kind of makes my skin crawl when you go back and look at those things. And, you look at those things and you say that, okay, what were you thinking on that play? What was the mindset? What did you see on that particular play? And from what I gather, it seems like you said he was pressing. He talked about that this week. And my whole thing is, why are you pressing? You've been in the league for 13 years, bro. 10 years as a starter? 19 years as a starter? Why are you pressing? Why? Are you trying to make up for something? Are you understanding and knowing that I don't have the arm strength that I used to have, or I used to be able to make this throw and I can't make it anymore? So those are the type of things I started thinking about when is when you think about what to expect for him coming into this game and whether or not he can get back to what we saw early on this season when they were averaging about 24, 25 points a game. And I said that was a sweet spot for me because I feel like, hey, the defense can figure out a way not to give up over 20 points a game. You know what I'm saying? And for the most part, they've been able to do that, even their struggles, in rushing the passer. So I say all that to say I don't know. I don't know what to expect. And when you have a quarterback of his experience, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that. I go into this game with no expectations. I'm just like, well,
Man,
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
you feel free, don't you?
It does kind of feel free,
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, yeah, we'll see what happens with the Falcons this weekend. We'll
Yeah,
either be really excited on the postcast or we'll be disappointed again. But it's just, I don't go into this game with the same sort of nervousness and trepidation. Again, we'll talk later about sort of the importance of this game in the podcast. But given the importance of the game, you would think like, oh man, this is it. This is the game. And so it's like, we'll see what happens. It's just kind of, so part of me kind of appreciates Kirk for playing at this level to at least make my mental health get to a point where it's just like, all right, we'll see what happens, man. I ain't worried about it at this point. I don't know how you feel about it, Travis.
I mean, my mindset is I knew coming into the season where this team limitations were coming in, right? So I said a lot of people were like going when they signed Kirk Cousins, people were like, oh, 11 games, 12 games. They're like, oh no, see that. I was like 9, 10. Realistically, 9.
I was thinking like 8 until
Oh,
they
really?
made the moves to
Okay.
get Judon and Simmons. That's what pushed me over the top.
Okay. Yeah. I was at 9 and then 10 when Justin came in. I was like, oh, 10 games. Shoot, bro. This division. They can get at least 5 or 6 in the division. Then, you know what I'm saying? Like, then they can figure out how to get, a few more and they can hit that number. But I think that, and then this is Raheem Morris's first year too. Being the head coach of this team, like what does the Terry Fontenot Raheem Morris regime look like going forward? Is that are we looking at a situation where you have a general manager? Like everybody let's keep it funky. Let's just air it on out. Since I'm getting a feeling in my spirit to just go there, right? So here we go. I think we all know, or for those who you don't know, that are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast on YouTube, if the Falcons would have hired Bill Belichick, Terry Fontenot would not have been in this organization. He would have been gone. That's why he wasn't at that press conference when they announced the firing Arthur Smith. Y'all can believe whatever all that crap Arthur Blank and Rich McKay were talking about, but that's the truth. That's the bottom line. That's the truth of it. He would have not been with this organization if they would have hired Bill Belichick. So when you have a general manager that, depending on who you hire, is whether or not you keep him, do you really have that much faith in him? So if it's a matter of we're talking about Kirk Cousins in the offseason potentially getting traded, even though he has a no trade clause, or the fact that they even that's out there, in the first year of his signing, who are you gonna point to? You're gonna point it to the coach that you just hired, and you just marched out there and said, hey man, this is our guy. This is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do these things going forward. We're gonna get back to some respectability in this league and be a contender for a Super Bowl. Is that the route you go? Is that the route that the Falcons go if things go awry and they mess around and don't make the playoffs? When they had a few weeks ago, man, shoot, we were talking about, oh man, playoffs sold up after they beat Tampa. Oh man, man, they gonna be good, man. They gonna ride this thing on out. But now here we are. The guy who was supposed to be your savior, the lead processor, he's starting getting shaky. So yeah, man, I'm in a space where now some things are gonna have to start questioning. And you've always been a guy not to be fully on board with Terry. I know I question a lot when it comes to his draft capabilities or biases when it comes to the draft. So I think that those are some of the things that's probably going to come up in this offseason if the Falcons mess around and don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of conversations if the Falcons mess around and don't make the playoffs.
Yes, I know you don't want to have that right now, but I
Yeah, I get it.
I had to get it out.
There's going to be a lot of soul searching, I guess you could say, with this team moving forward. But let's spin it into something that's a little bit more positive, Charles. Let's talk a little bit about this Falcons defense. And again, we got to take these opportunities when we get them, Jarvis, because how many more times are we going to be able to talk about this Falcons defense like it's one of the top units in the NFL? And they absolutely look like one of the top units in the NFL last Sunday. And no, it was not a mirage. And we will talk about why as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. Nothing delivers quite like the comfort and joy of unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. Who doesn't want a big old slab of beef this holiday? Surf and turf, mouth-watering desserts. Treat yourself or your family right while saving 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get a extra $30 off with promo code NFL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. And holiday shopping, guys, it's hard, especially for my folks who I've gotten the many gifts over the years, and what is the perfect gift for them? And, they don't get to see their grandkids nearly as much as they want. And I feel like I've got the perfect gift, and that's Skylight Frame, a touchscreen digital photo frame the whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. The seamless sharing is going to allow you to invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. Add new photos straight from your phone from anywhere. It only takes a tap, and you can send photos to a new frame across the country. It's the fastest, easiest way to keep the loved ones in the loop, and it looks beautiful in your home because they're displayed in HD resolution, and you can choose from 5 different frame styles. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NFL. Continuing here with Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta, let's talk about this Falcons defense. They, balled out against the LA Chargers, had their best game of the season. I basically said, you look at some of the numbers, right? They gave up, I think, 187 yards, which was the second lowest of the Chargers season this year. They had been held to 166 yards against the Steelers earlier this season. And basically, you take away that 150-yard play from Ladd McConkey, the Falcons would have held them to, 130 some odd yards and basically getting 5 sacks. It's basically what we saw on Sunday, this past Sunday, was the Atlanta Steelers defense with getting the pressure, stopping teams and whatnot. And so, Jarvis, I ask you, are the Atlanta Steelers, is the, red curtain, whatever you want to call it, going to show up again on Sunday against this Minnesota Vikings team that has been, not always consistent offensively, but when they are on, they have been a very potent offense, and we know that they have a ton of weapons, which was a big reason why Kirk Cousins had so much success in previous years there, because of the plethora of weapons he had to throw to. So what say you, Jarvis, when it comes to, can the Falcons defense keep this up?
I think they can, because I feel not only there were some things that I feel like Jimmy Lake and Raheem Morris, got to give them the credit too. Like the adjustments that they made, I felt like the players felt it, and you saw the result of it on tape, because not only did they play a little bit more man coverage, not only did they play those corners, have them down, up against pressing those wide receivers, I felt like there was there were certain situations where players were in and they were doing things that they do best. Like when Caden Ellis is rushing the passer, he has a lot more value, as a linebacker, right? Like no shade to his coverage because he had a solid game cover in coverage as well. But the man can rush the passer, dog. Like he's great with his hands. You always see him, working his moves and everything like that, not necessarily bull rushing all the doggone time. Like he is a guy that has a sense of urgency when rushing the passer. So when you look at it from that standpoint and putting guys in position to be successful, I feel like they can continue that mold. And when you're calling aggressive style type defenses, that comes to the players. Because man, the way AJ Terrell played one of those screens, I think Quentin Johnson was supposed to block him, and he just came through him, and came through and just blew that junk up, man. I was like, that's a product of your play calls. Because if you got your guys playing off at 6 and 7 and it's 3rd and 7 and they're backing up, because that's just the natural thing to do. That's what DBs are taught to do. When the ball is snapped, you start to move, right? Unless you're sitting there, unless you're squatting, So, and when you think about it from that aspect of it, like the players, that's why I say I believe wholeheartedly in the players are a product of who their coach is. And they are the scheme and all that stuff is a trickle down effect. And I think that we saw that this past Sunday against the Chargers. And that's why I feel like they can keep this up. Now, am I saying they're going to get 5 sacks again? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is those guys start to put those sacks together. They come in bunches. Just know that Sunday was a prime example of that. That can continue to come. And then maybe those sacks that you got on Sunday can motivate the guy who was questioning the scheme. And now that the scheme has been changed up a little bit, maybe he can start getting home as well. And y'all know who I'm talking about. I ain't gonna say his name. You know what I'm talking about.
Jarvis, are you talking about Matthew Judon? Is that who you're talking about?
I wish I had a 15 jersey in my background. I was straight point to it right now. How about this? This one -5.
Okay.
Yes, 20 right there. Y'all see that? 21 -6. Yeah. There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
15. Yeah, Yeah, I'm talking to you, sir. Yes.
Okay. All right.
I know you listen to the pod because who else? Who doesn't listen to Locked On Falcons?
That's true. You know how you know how to push my buttons, Jarvis. Yeah, man. I think this it gives me some hope because speaking of listen to the pod, like we talked about this in the lead up to the Chargers game. It was like, yeah, let's see a little bit more aggressiveness for this defense, just sort of the sit back, bend but don't break. We'll let the offense screw it up before we screw up. It just it started out fine this season, but after a certain point, it just stopped working for this football team. And sort of if they can be that aggressive team and maybe get some pressure on Sam Darnold, as you discussed on the Atlanta Football Party on Thursday on Locked On Sports Atlanta, like Sam Darnold will give you some opportunities to take advantage of it. That's something that Luke Braun talked about on Locked On Vikings. Like the Vikings will give you opportunities to take the ball away. Aaron Jones, he dealt with fumbles and whatnot. We've seen Nate Landman. We've seen Jesse Bates do a great job punching the ball out so far this season. So there are numerous opportunities for this defense to make game-changing plays. And if they sort of stay on that sort of aggressive mindset that we saw on Sunday against the Chargers, I feel like that will translate into this defense stepping up enough to put this team, if the offense can do its job, to be in a position late in the game to potentially win it.
And I think they do that by forcing turnovers. Like Jordan has been a little quiet. I mean, he's been making plays. Like that's expectation doing his job. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, man. But I think he's due for one of those type of games. Like I'm talking about pick 6, New Orleans Saints last year type situation. Like I think he's kind of ramping up to that. And I think that, the way these guys are punching the ball out, I think you make another great point, man. Nate Lamb has just been so intentional about it. It's funny how when you see guys doing things for a a specific result, you see it eventually starts to come. And I think that Nate Landman has been coming in for tackles. I'm talking about straight up like he a boxer, dog, trying to get that ball out. And you saw them knock the ball out. You know, they weren't able to pick it up last week. But, you know, it just goes to show you, like, those guys are talking about those type of things, because you have to be able to get the offense as many possessions as possible. And I think Justice Simmons, Maria brought this up on Atlanta Football Party about Justice Simmons feeling that they didn't do enough to win the game. And you know how you do enough to win the game? You get those extra possessions. How you get those extra possessions? Turn them folks over in their own territory. Give Kirk a short field so he won't have as much opportunity to make a mistake. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's the formula going forward. And we talked about this, you know, before this Chargers game. Like, that's how this defense has to live, because of the inconsistencies in rushing the passer. Now, if you telling me they're gonna give me 5 sacks every game, oh shoot, yeah, hey man, you throwing out them folks to death. Yeah, they're gonna get enough possession to be able to finally punch it in. But you know, I feel like, you know, some 2 and dones and some 1 and dones. And then you have a guy like Sam Darnold, who I just refuse to believe that he's a face of the franchise. I'm not going to believe, man. I've seen too much from this cat. And talking about a man talking about seeing ghosts on the field, man. Shoot, that ghost guy got a number 3 jersey on, and hey, man, I think I put some more money on that versus saying Sam Darnold is going to be the quarterback of the future.
Yeah, well, we will see what this defense brings to the table, but I think you nailed it, Jarvis. Like, you need this defense to be opportunistic, to give this offense more opportunities to score points, because we've watched throughout the season when they face quality defenses like what Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator of the Vikings, is bringing to the table. Depending on what metrics, this is the best defense in the NFL that they're going to face. And, you know, again, I appreciate Kirk for, you know, lifting the mental fog off my head, but we need this guy to play really well. And I don't know if he alone at this stage in the season is going to be able to carry them in the ways that we need them to carry them. So you need the offense to play better. You need the defense to step up, get those opportunities, so that those two things go together and this team can come away with a win that they may or may not need to have in order to continue their playoff hopes this season. And so we'll wrap up today's Locked On Falcons with Jarvis Davis here, talking about how much of a win is this. Basically, if they don't walk away from Minnesota with a W, is the Falcons 2024 season over? And we'll break that down as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. If you're like me, your holiday shopping list might not be complete. And if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fan in your life. Perhaps you've heard of this. Oh, excuse me. IceShaker, now the officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, MLB. It will make the ideal gift. It's created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers. IceShakers have sold over 1 million bottles, making this the gift that you've been looking for. Just go to IceShaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout, and you can save 25% off your order. And maybe you're not really feeling the Atlanta Falcons at this point in time, but IceShakers are completely customizable. You can send in your logo and check out the custom shop and customize your favorite bottle. And the turnaround is just 3 to 5 business days on those custom bottles. So order your team branded bottles today at IceShaker.com and use code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. IceShakers, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. IceShakers. Continue to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. And the FanDuel Sportsbook app is going to give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, so you can get that hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the very same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that first $5 bet may be on the Atlanta Falcons Vikings matchup, where the Vikings are now favored by 5.5 points. Clearly, people are down on Kirk Cousins, but maybe Kirk Cousins can redeem himself and win you some money. Again, you win that $5 bet, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now, Jarvis, talking about must-win games. Now, for me personally, when I hear the term must-win, I think basically like you must win this game or your season's done. It's done. We're playing for next year at that point in time. Mm-hmm. Other people have different definitions. Obviously, the importance of this game cannot be minimized, right? This is NFC game, playoff implications, tiebreakers, all these various things. But it's one of 5 games left for the Falcons. They still have ample opportunity to finish the season with a winning record. They still have ample opportunity, even if they lose this game, to get to double-digit wins. But obviously, you lose this game, the margins become awfully thinner. You basically have to run the table to get to that point. And for my money, I feel like based off of where Tampa Bay is at, where other teams like Washington are at in terms of the wild card, bare minimum 10 wins is going, you need to get to 10 wins in order to make the playoffs. And even then it may not be good enough. But what say you when it comes to this? Is this a must-win game in the sense that the season is over if they lose this game, or is it just a must-win game in the sense of, whatever other definition you want to call it?
I think it's a must-win game if they want to be taken seriously. If you want to be taken seriously around this league, man, you got to get a win against a team like the Vikings. You were able to sneak one in against the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, that's great. And you swept the doggone Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But who are you? Yeah. Outside of that, so like we talk about, I felt like even before they got on this losing streak, I felt like getting one of these 2 games, Chargers and Vikings, would kind of not only help me feel better about taking them seriously, as far as getting into the playoffs and having an opportunity to win a game, but I felt like this is a game that, or getting one of these 2 games can really help this team as a collective be able to have enough confidence in themselves to say, hey, yeah, we can compete against the big dogs. Because whether or not they want to admit it, them going on the road and getting a win against a playoff contender. And by the way, yes, this is Kirk Cousins' former team as well. And yeah, I've been stinking it up lately. I haven't thrown a pass, a touchdown. So yeah, this is when you start to add those different layers. Yeah, man, you got to get this win. If you want to prove that you need to be taken seriously, if you want to be a joke and continue to be looked at as mid and average and people calling for your job and everybody trying to fire everybody that they hired just this past spring, yeah, lose this game and see what happens. Yeah. The Michael Penix calls coming, the fire Terry Fontenot calls coming. People want to call for it, but it ain't gonna happen. Fire Raheem Morris. Shoot, we should have hired Bill Belichick in the first place. All that stuff's gonna come, man, if you don't win this game, especially if you turn the ball over. So yeah, from a respectability standpoint, the Falcons have to win this game. They have to. They have to.
I agree wholeheartedly with you on the respectability.
I
only point out mathematically, I don't know if they have to win this game in order to make the playoffs, but you're right. Respectability. I think you're right. This would be
that's what we were last year, right? That's what the Falcons were last year. Oh, from a number standpoint, we still have a shot. Like really? That's where we are?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the Falcons were. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but yeah, man. Yeah, I got a chance with Meg Thee Stallion because she hasn't told me no yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay. I know I don't have a chance until she tells me no.
Mathematically, yes.
Mathematically, I have a chance with Meg Thee Stallion.
Yes, you do.
Mathematically, I have a chance with Halle Berry. Yes.
That's
mathematically.
we will cling to that.
Now,
We will cling to
nowhere
that
near
to our
long enough
dying
to
day.
mess with Hallie. You
Yeah.
know, Meg might like big dudes, and that's probably the only chance I might have. But she probably don't because she hanging around with what's that boy name that went to jail? Oh, what's his name?
I'm not allowed to say that person's name. You talking about the dude who shot her?
Yeah.
Because the reason why my Twitter account is suspended is because I talked about that dude. So,
oh, that's why we got to do RIP Falcons fans.
Yeah.
Because you said his name?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Wow. I wish I knew his name because I would say it because I don't care.
I'll say Matt Judon all day, but I won't talk about that.
Hey.
But I think you're right. Before we got on this tangent.
Yeah, Mary the Stallion and Halle Berry. What we talking about? Yeah.
I mean, that is certainly more interesting than the Falcons right now. But yeah, I think you're right when it comes to, respectability, because like you look at this Vikings team, they have still a shot at making the 1 seed, right? Yes. We know how Detroit has played all season long, but they're 1 game behind Detroit Lions, and I think they have some upcoming matchups in that division to make up ground, and this is potentially again
all playoff spots in the NFC are for grabs right now.
Yeah, this is potentially basically the best team in the NFC, and if you can go into their house, formerly Kirk's house, and get a W, like that would be huge. I think not only for what you're talking about respectability, but I think the psyche of this fan base, because I think the fan base is at a point where it's just like, oh, here we go again, and it's. Like they need something. They need something to get them back into the fold, because we're a long way away from 6-3 beating the brakes off of the Cowboys or whatever. Not the scoreboard didn't say that, but it was very clear who dominated that game. Sure. And it's been a while, so they need something. They need something.
Yeah, man, and it's a reason why we talk about the Atlanta Football Party on Mondays is therapy Mondays for us. Like everybody talk about, yeah, man, we get all the stuff out, have a conversation, before and after and during the show. So, I think this is, man, it'd just be so great if they just walked up in that dome, man, and just put their feet on the couch and said, blank your couch, man. We about to get a dub and we out this mug. That would be so great. But ask me, do I think that's going to happen? Just given the history of this team and the magnitude of games that they've gone and just laid an egg. Seattle, Denver. Oh, Seattle was at, just, yeah, man. Yeah. So, yeah, this would be amazing if they can go up and get a win. And I was even talking with Sam Ekstrom, he's the Locked On Sports Minnesota up there, and just saying how this is who Kirk is. Like the up and down, like when he has a stinky game, there's possibility he can come in and do the game and have the exact opposite. He threw 4 picks in that one game, he can come in, throw 4 tugs and no picks the next game. Well, I'm hoping that happens. But you know what they say about hope in football?
Hope in one hand, something else in the other. See which one fills up faster.
Yep.
I've lived that life as a Falcon fan for many years. Like whenever people like hope springs eternal, I'm like, hope died for me like 3 decades ago, guys. As a Falcon fan, so
we lived on the same street, bro. Trust me. Like I've been happy to be objective about the Falcons. I promise you. Like I live in a household with a Dallas Cowboy fan. I grew up in the household with a Dallas Cowboy fan. My dad used to tell me, and I never understood it because I was super young at the time. Super big football fan and all that stuff. And my dad, he said, man, son, I'm gonna tell you why I wasn't a Falcon fan. And there's a reason why I said it like that. Falcon fan. He said, they'll build you up to disappoint you every time. I was like, really? No, there ain't no way, man. No way.
He was preaching. He was preaching.
Oh. My dad will preach about the Falcons, bro. You wouldn't think he'll preach anytime other outside of that. But oh my God, when you start talking about the Falcons, man, you're like, golly, man. Right.
Sometimes you just wish you had a time machine to go back and shake yourself and be like, don't go down this path. This is this is only going to lead to pain and regret as a young child, rocking the red and black. You're like, but hey, we'll see.
It's like baseball, he the one that was a freaking rock star in Atlanta everywhere he went. It was a party in the Georgia Dome every Sunday. Hey, those parties outside that dome, though, that he showed up at. Stories, man. Stories.
All right. We're going to end it on that. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole any further.
Yes, we don't go down there.
Yes. So this is where we're at in the season. This is what it is. But guys, that's going to do it for us here on Locked On Falcons. Make sure you check us out on Sunday after the game here for a rapid reaction. Of course, talking about whatever goes down in that Vikings-Falcons game. We'll, of course, be back on Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube, as well as on the Locked On Falcons and Locked On Sports Atlanta audio feeds for that immediate postcast reaction after the game. But that is going to do it for us here, guys. Appreciate it. Check out Locked On Falcons as your first listen on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.